You're listening to Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong, all on Georgia Radio Network.
Welcome to episode 28 of the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast. I am Jessica Szilagyi here with Matt Lowe, who is in Paulding County.
Yep.
Really?
What?
That's all you got?
That's all I got. That's all I ever say.
Right.
Or yo.
Yo. We have quite a show for you this week. All kinds of topics from around the state and nation. Some local things going on too. But first, we're going to talk about the welfare state. And the reason we're going to start off on this is because I am sick and tired of our workforce. I understand that we have, a welfare nation and a growing welfare state that has everyone on the dole. And we know how Matt feels about people receiving benefits and what rights should be suspended because they receive them. But I'm just overall about everything right now because I'm watching our workforce just deplete before our eyes and how no one wants to work or do anything. And even the ones that do work are legitimately okay with just getting by with the bare minimum. How do you feel about that, Matt?
That's the kind of stuff that I see every day in my field. I see some of the people that are my age and a little older that are we get out there and we get it. And if it takes us 60 hours or 70 hours to get it done right, we do that. But we're managing. It's like you said, we're managing people that are perfectly fine with incomplete jobs, and clocking out at 40 and heading out.
Yeah, I think.
And
it used to be that people were willing to invest in a job whether they had ownership or not. You invested in the job because you wanted to give it everything that you had because it was a representation of you. Now people are like, well, that's not my problem.
Right. And, I go back and forth kind of with it. I guess if you want to be all go no quits for your 40 and clock out at 40, fine, because you got a family or whatever. I kind of get the idea of having less so that you can, live more.
Well, and two, there's people who choose to work for others so they don't have the responsibility of a business owner. And I get that too. But I'm talking about the quality of work and the work ethic and the fact that if this doesn't work out, there's plenty of fallbacks, and most of those fallbacks are government, and it's just it's killing us.
Right. A buddy of mine, we talk often, and he's been on the show, Dave, but he talks about it quite a bit. I think at least that last October, it was last September. They walked in and just kind of let everybody in my whole department go. Mm-hmm. Just, you're out of here. And he was, I guess Dave was very impressed with the work ethic that I had in that the next day I was at a new job, even though it meant that I wasn't sitting in an air-conditioned office anymore. I was out on a construction site swinging a hammer.
Sure.
Because
you have a
I
family.
still had bills to pay, mouths to feed.
Right.
And man, I don't know. I look around at some of the folks that work for me now, and I'm not sure they would do that.
No, you're totally right. There's people who think they are too qualified to do lesser. And there are plenty of jobs that I'm overqualified for, but it doesn't mean that if everything hit the fan, I wouldn't be doing it,
Right? I tell my kids all the time, and no offense to anyone listening to this that works in the food service industry, but I have straight up said, I'm like, look, y'all are going to be starving before daddy goes to work, in fast food or in a restaurant or something like that, because I did that when I was a teenager, and it's terrible. Oh man, I don't know how.
It is terrible, and I can barely carry a single glass from the counter to the table, so me putting a couple on a tray would be a nightmare. So that's what I'm doing a service by not working in the food industry. But getting back to the point, so there's all these articles this week that are coming out about people who are on different forms of welfare, and then the support for Medicare for All, which is growing. And the first one is from The Hill, and it's 70% of Americans support Medicare for All in a new poll. Now, I do finally, when I got my new internet, I got a home phone line. I'm fully expecting to get one of these polls now, because they say they poll all these people, and I don't know anyone who's ever been polled in one of these Reuters or Rasmussen polls. But anyway, this new one said that 70% of Americans in a new poll support Medicare for All law, also known as the single-payer health system. 85% of Democrats said they support the policy, along with 52% of Republicans. Now, I haven't broken down the information and the questions to see how it was worded, but I'm kind of wondering where these Republicans and who they're voting for. Hi, Fred.
Right? Actually, that's Penelope.
Oh, Penelope. But 52% of Republicans are in support of a single-payer healthcare system. What is that about?
I think that's pretty indicative of, there's been a split in the Republican Party, and you have this some that are just, I don't know, far more moderate, and then you've got the old guard, and you got folks like us, which I think are probably going to be, if somehow the Republican Party is saved, it will be saved by what I like to call Republicans. But that must be where that 52% is coming from.
But how can you consider yourself a Republican in any sense of the word? The Hill is reporting, which, I mean, the Hill is pretty reasonable on some of their reporting. They report more than some of the other outlets and less editorialization. But they said it will lead to a $32.6 trillion increase in federal spending over 10 years. I mean, that's not, even if you're in favor of a program like that, $32.6 trillion, how do you even justify that and say, oh yes, we're the party of limited government? Yes, we are.
Right?
I mean,
do you think we're going to get there eventually anyway?
Unless Jesus comes back.
The more people that I talk to, when they start, especially if they've been outside of the states and they've seen some healthcare system in other countries where they do have a single payer. There's some, it's like anything. You can pick out a handful of them that are just garbage, and then there's others you look at and be like, it's not too bad there. I will say Denmark has a decent one. I know Switzerland has a good single payer system.
Well,
but
The Hill, in this article, they say that the proponents of the bill, which include Bernie Sanders, who I don't know how reliable he is in factual, but it says that it will reduce healthcare costs by $2 trillion over the next, until 2031. So we're spending 32 in taxes to save $2 trillion somewhere else. I mean,
man, I've heard this before. I remember back in 2014 when they were telling me that this new healthcare bill was gonna decrease the cost of healthcare. I ain't buying that.
I mean, in a similar poll, it's also reported, they say that a majority of Americans support free college tuition. 41% of Republicans, 79% of Democrats. And I'm just...
Man, who the hell are they polling? I mean, really?
Well, not only that, but, how are they getting these numbers when there's this big national movement to have skilled workers in trade schools and not focus on college and avoiding the costs and going straight into the workforce and experience. I mean, I get it from the Democrat side, but Republicans, 41%? These got to be like John McCain, Lindsey Graham Republicans.
Are they even voting Republicans? Are they, are they in college and currently paying for their own? So, because I get that. Like, I totally would understand where someone would be like, yeah, free college, great. But I don't know, man. I think free college would suck because I take a look at the public school system now. That's free, kinda. And I don't know, you want college to be like that too?
Well, and a lot of states have opportunities for free college. And I mean, I still stand by the school of thought that not everyone should go to college for the sole fact that we're not all equal. We shouldn't all be equal in terms of education, and if everyone has the same qualifications, then what distinguishes us from the next person?
Right. I mean, I've always said it makes people mad. I'm like, look, somebody has to sweep the floors. We're not all built for college, so.
Let's just hope you're not on food stamps, because if you sweep the floors and you're on food stamps, Matt's going to work to take away your right to vote.
You don't have a right to vote. I don't think you should have a right to vote in the elections that we do have a right to vote. But
what?
There's a handful of elections that we do actually have a right to vote in. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we should have those. I feel like I'm almost down for a pay-to-play version of that.
We're going to need to jump on down this rabbit hole and have you explain, because...
Well, no, we're back to where I was. If I've talked about this before, that, if you're not gainfully employed and paying taxes, you'd know.
So what about the housewife?
Nope.
So white male landowners.
I didn't say that. You're gainfully employed.
I am.
There you go.
But for the first, I wouldn't have been able to vote until I was 28 because I didn't own my house.
Right?
I rented.
That's probably okay.
What?
Man,
I voted for Ron Paul in 2012.
yeah, but you're the exception, right? How many 18-year-olds, do you look at and be like, we should totally trust the country to them?
Oh, I would like to get rid of 18-year-olds at this point.
So there you go.
I mean, I'm not trying to strip their rights because I'm just baffled by this concept that you think we should limit the people who vote. We have so few people who vote anyway. I mean...
Look, 70% of Americans think that we should have a single payer system. Those people are going to get their way. If you trim back the voter base to those that are going to have to pay for it, maybe things get a little better.
Okay, so the people who reap the benefits of it shouldn't have a say?
No.
That's kind of frightening.
Why?
Well, I mean, because I guess I'm asking like where the line stops because everyone receives a government service, so like public school kids.
Right, no, I don't look.
How do you define
could stretch
this?
it. You could stretch it out to anything and make it where everybody receives some kind of a service. So because that's just kind of the nature of the way that our society works now. Like you said, public school system. But like I'm talking about like straight up, traditionally thought of welfare. If you're getting a Section 8 housing check, if you're getting food stamps, if you're having help from, the home heating assistance program to pay your heat bill during the winter, that kind of stuff. I'm not talking about, folks who are retired and they're getting their Social Security or whatever. It's like you could chase it out that far, but that's not what I'm talking about.
Okay.
And I would even be okay with, like, let's say you got a guy that gets up, goes to work, pays his taxes, has his taxes stolen. Take your taxes. But like, I don't know, something happens and he's underemployed. I think there was a time I was underemployed. And to feed his kids or whatever, he's got to get on food stamps. Then maybe he can still vote because he's still paying into the system. I'm just like, you got to have some skin in that game.
So you don't worry that if government can limit who can vote, they won't further limit it based on precedent and bad policy and grudges and everything else that we see in every other aspect of government?
I mean, I'm sure they will, but that's what government does. It's on us to do it.
So why would you give... So on that same commentary, 52.1% of kids live in households getting means-tested government assistance. So this is from CNS News. It's a poll. It came out on August 22nd, and it's based on the most recent data from the Census Bureau. 73.5 million people under 18 in the United States, and 52% of them are in households which get benefits. Either SNAP, Medicaid, public housing, supplemental security income, special SNAP for women, infants, and children, temporary assistance for needy families, and the National School Lunch Program. Now, when I first read this, I didn't know that they included the National School Lunch Program. And honestly, I'm surprised that the number's not higher with that because especially down here where I live, like there's 99% and 100% school lunch.
Right. Yeah. I want to say here in Paulton, it's 70%.
Yeah. So I'm surprised, honestly, that the numbers are as low as they are. I would have, you would think with so many districts where it's 75 to 100%, that would tip the scales over 52% nationwide. But I guess in some areas, no.
Right. See, I don't know, man. I think you probably. I think you should remove that supplemental security income out of there. Because isn't that like, I don't know, maybe I'm confused about what that is. I was thinking that might be like the payments that, like, if I died right now, all of my kids would, my wife could go down to the Social Security office and start filing for death benefits, and all of my kids would start getting my money that I've been paying. But that may not be what that supplemental security income is.
So it says supplemental security income pays benefits to disabled adults and children who have limited income and resources. SSI benefits are also payable to people 65 and older without disabilities who meet financial limits. people who have worked long enough may also be able to receive Social Security as well. And it says SSI benefits are for an adult with a disability, a child with a disability. It doesn't really say if you pay into it.
Right. 52%.
52%. So there's a 16-page PDF on SSI income if you're really that interested. Of course, like the first 4 pages are blank because government loves waste. They can't just put them on 9 pages. They've got to put a page, blank page, put a page, blank page, like whatever. Now I really want to know if this is something you pay into. But I'm not sure how a disabled child would, I've never seen it on a check or anything, unless it comes out of Social Security.
Right. I don't know. I mean, it's going to come right out of the Treasury, I'm sure.
They'll just print it.
Right. Well, they don't even print it. It's just numbers and computer so it's for sure. I don't know. I don't know how that works. So.
Well, we'll get back to you on that.
I find some people who have some kids on disability.
Yeah.
And I don't even know that I'm not even sure that I would like grudge that. You know, like there's, I don't know, man, because I think that's part of the, for all my things about, you know, hate taxes and people should go in and taking care of things themselves and whatnot. Like, if you had a kid that was just born and it just had like just a lot of things wrong where like, I don't know that I don't begrudge somebody going and getting disciplined for that child, even if we as a society pick up the medical.
Well, I think there's a difference between begrudging it and like looking down on people and thinking it's the proper role of government. Like, I think people can understand, and since the program's there, I mean, people capitalize on it, but still doesn't mean it's right. I mean, I read an article the other day that said like more and more Americans are crowdfunding for health insurance through, you know, like Christian ministry things where basically, I don't know if people know how it works, but if I had kidney stones and I got a bill for $5,000, I would send my bill in and then I would start getting checks from all these other people in the ministry. And then if someone else was sick or hurting or something or had surgery, then we would send them checks. And so it's like a, you know, anonymous GoFundMe, but you're paying it forward. Everybody pays dues and you still have your insurance premiums and everything. But I just wonder so often like why we can't be more creative like that with programs like this, because supplemental security payments it's supplemental. It's not a lot of money. Like, I don't understand why we can't find another opportunity to provide that income that isn't government based.
Right.
You know, it's not like Social Security where you're literally paying someone's like monthly income.
Right.
But probably gonna find But it said that interesting and kind of goes across political spectrums, but it says since 2013, 14, 15, and 16, obviously they haven't done this is for 17 that we're talking about, but for the past 4 years, we've seen over 50% of households on benefits like that. So, with children on benefits. So, I mean, I'm sure it's only going to get worse.
I don't know, man. I bet it's getting better right now.
Why do you think that?
Well, because unemployment's really low. It's real low. There's the job market. I get calls from recruiters every single day or emails, and I'll tell them, I'm like, you know, look, I've only been in my current position for less than a year, and they're like, so. So it's insane. I've got some friends that they said that they're having to go outside the country now to find work or to find people to fill positions.
Okay, so I really want to be optimistic with you, but you know, they have the U.S. debt clock that like runs up who's unemployment population, debt to GDP ratio, all that. And I found the other day that they actually have it for states too. And Georgia has 1.5 million people on food stamps alone. And we have 10 million people? So more than 15% of our population's on food stamps, like, and the economy's supposedly good. Shouldn't we be seeing better results than that? I think we're still in a situation where it's more profitable to be unemployed or partially employed than it is to be gainfully employed.
Maybe so, maybe so. I don't know.
I want to be optimistic with you. I really do, but I just can't get there on that.
It's my age, I think.
You are considerably older. Yes.
Considerably older?
Considerably older. So going on to something that's been happening here in Georgia. This has kind of been unfolding over the last month, so we're a little bit late to the party on actually talking about it, but it's still going on. So in Columbus, in Muskogee County, there is a school board member named Frank Myers. He actually just lost his re-election campaign in the May primary, so he won't be returning in January. And he's actually been like a vocal opponent of a lot of things going on in Muskogee County, where there are several failing schools, and they've been listed on the Opportunity School District takeover list and all kinds of things like that. So they've got all their own problems. But about a month ago, a girl and this school board member got in a Facebook dispute, and he went to her Facebook profile and took a picture of her in a bikini, screenshotted it, zoomed in, and replied and said she needed to lose 30 pounds, like in their argument. And of course, like all legitimate conversation was lost. It went viral. He had to publicly apologize like 3 times. She's speaking out at board meetings now, and she's actually she's filed an ethics complaint and called for the board to censure him and all this, but he's leaving, and they think he should resign. And I mean, it's just turned into an absolute nightmare that's not education related, which is what frustrates me. But this girl has started like a movement called 30 to Love. So 30 pounds to love, basically. And she's got t-shirts, and all of these people showed up to this board meeting the other night that she spoke at wearing t-shirts, and she's donating all the money to a local charity with the Boys and Girls Club. She sold like $3,000 worth of shirts, and it's this big movement. Every day she talks about how she's proud of her body and all of this. I'm on board with all of it. All of it. Like, I'm super envious that she's so proud of her extra 30 pounds, if you want to call it that she wants to make it a movement. But I'm really struggling because there's a change.org petition where she is calling it sexual harassment. So my question for you, Matt, do you feel like, in her change.org position, she calls it sexual harassment. So do you feel like a man, whether in elected position or not, screenshotting a picture of somebody in a bathing suit and telling her she needs to lose 30 pounds is sexual harassment?
Nope, not in the least.
Yeah, I don't either. Go ahead.
I mean, look, I don't know. I'd have to see the conversation that led up to it, because I just, like, I don't know, man. I mean, I'm sure there's some asshole out there who would, just come right out of the gate with that.
Sure.
But I'm curious I'm curious about the conversation that led up to that.
So apparently, and I don't have the screenshots in front of me, but apparently she was, speaking, it wasn't even school board related from my understanding. It was them arguing about a city council race that's coming up in November. Columbus is obviously like in turmoil as well, and crime and all these problems. So, I mean, tensions are high in Columbus. I'm in a couple neighborhood groups and people fight all day long. Like, I don't think half the people there are employed. their sole job in life is to fight about politics in Columbus, Georgia. But, anyway, she I guess I want to be on her side so badly, because as a woman, I've had men talk about my body in an argument, or when they don't like something I say, whether it be on Fox or in an article. I mean, my hair, my teeth, my legs, everything. Like, they don't... people,
I've seen that.
Yes. And so if it was an elected official, I would strike at the opportunity to make them look like an absolute idiot for not having a legitimate conversation and instead making it about the physical appearance of a woman. Because it's very rare that a woman will bring up something about a man in a fight. Like, oh, wow, how's that bald spot? Are you keeping it lotioned? Like, nobody, nobody is, I don't know why you're laughing, but nobody... it's not something, it's not common. And so I want to support her, but I just feel like she took the victimhood aspect of it a little too far. And that really bums me out, because I feel like she was really on to something. And I'm glad that she's still continuing on, with this movement about being proud of your body and donating the money back to a group that specifically helps young girls and stuff. But calling it sexual harassment, I feel like, is one, offensive to anyone who's actually been harassed in the workplace or in some sort of environment where that is bred.
Right. Yeah. But that's pretty common. We overuse all kinds of stuff. Now you say something remotely negative about, some black racist. It's getting to the point where words like this are going to lose their meaning.
Well, look at our gubernatorial race right now in Georgia. I mean, if anyone says anything about Stacey Abrams and they're white, it's hell to pay from the left because it's a race thing, when I'm like, no, I just don't really like the idea of you coming to my house and taking guns or whatever it may be,
Right.
It has nothing to do. If it was a white woman who looked just like me, I'd still be ticked that she's knocking on my door asking for my weapons. Let's not.
Right.
So I think you're right that it's overused, and we lose so much meaningful discussion because of it. Like, here we are 35 days from when this exchange took place, and we're still talking about their exchange instead of her message, which could be, she's made her point. Like, let's launch into the message and stay there instead of coming back and giving this person who wanted to talk about her behind.
Right. And I'm looking at the picture. I don't think she needs to lose 30 pounds. I think if she lost 30 pounds, there would much left.
And she has beautiful hair. Someone should definitely applaud her. But yeah, so that's something that's going on here in Georgia.
Out of the Daily Wire, and it's in Anchorage, Alaska, but it serves battered and sexually abused women, right? And it's being targeted by the state's Equal Rights Commission for refusing to allow biological men to enter the shelter, shower, and living facilities. Even though these men who are biologically, they identify as females. Man, I don't like the utter ridiculousness that is going on in so much of this. Is like we're back to these. I mean, this is the bathroom argument all over again. Only this time, the damn state is doing it.
I don't know what to say. I mean, from the article, it says the charitable center is not a public accommodation and should be awarded an accommodation rooted in religious liberty because it is a faith-based shelter, is what the attorney for the Hope Center is saying. But
I don't know, man. I mean, I think that there should, if we're gonna have places for women like that, and I get it, I understand, and I even understand why these places would say men can't be there. I know some of the ones that I know of in the state of Georgia. They just don't allow men. They allow men on the campus, but they're not allowed in any of the buildings unless, like there's an HVAC problem. The guy that shows up is, he's an AC guy. Because I could see how, a woman who just had the snot kicked out of her or was raped or something would not want to be in the presence of a man. Like, I get that. Give her, But this, I mean, just because you're a dude that decided you're now a woman, go find your own shelter. I don't know. It's
go find your own shelter.
Right? Yeah.
I mean,
now look. I know though. Like, there's not men in these cases are underserved, but that's typically because we don't need to seek shelter. As far as like that's. I mean, that's a protective service. We generally don't need that, but I don't know. Maybe they should have some for dudes that are women. I don't know, man. I'm so flustered with all of this because like we got this. We were talking earlier, and I can't find a link on it, but I'd heard that Hooters was moving towards a family style, more family friendly environment because this generation of freaking beta males don't like boobs. I don't. I'm so flustered. I don't know what has happened to men in general.
Where are all the men? This reminds me from a scene of Friends where Joey and Chandler and Ross are all hanging out with the women, and Chandler just wants to do guy things, and he's like, "Where are all the men?" We'll put it on the Facebook page. But I mean, it's true. The man bun era, nothing. I mean, it's here to stay, and it's not the grudge. It's offensive to a woman. It used to be, oh, I'm gonna go hang out with my guy friends. We're not we'll be back wherever. Have fun, be safe, whatever. Now it's oh, that's so disrespectful to go have lunch at Hooters. And the guys are like, oh, okay, well, I'll not go because you're upset. I mean,
right?
I just,
yeah, no.
Do you know what I mean? It used to be well, you do your thing and I'll do my thing and we'll meet back here for dinner tonight. And now it's everyone's so dang sensitive. I mean, have you seen how teenagers are dressing today? You can see the same thing at Hooters at Walmart because the little hussies are running around with their booties out. I mean...
Yep. I've got a freshman... A freshman girl.
So, I mean, if guys are going to look, they're going to look. I don't understand this whole,
Yeah, but here's the thing. Apparently they're not looking because they don't like boobs anymore.
I don't understand that.
You're fighting genetic programming there. When we went from walk around on all fours, to upright, we needed something as men to kind of clue us in as to when the female may be ready to breed because, she's not walking around with a baboon, like a red ass baboon now, We
What?
should probably cut that. You know. You ever watch monkeys, man? Like you watch Discovery Channel.
You're not cutting that. You are not cutting that. You have to leave it in there, and you have to leave my response because I'm like trying to we're not in the same room, so I'm trying to picture what you're drawing, and
No, so all right, you've watched Discovery Channel, right?
Yes, I've watched Discovery.
All right, and you watch baboons around mating time, right?
I know what you're talking about. I just
because this giant red ass that's sticking out there, right? So when women stopped walking around on all fours and went upright. There had to be another clue. That clue was breast, right? We're genetically programmed to and now this new millennial beta male is like, oh, I don't like this.
But you know what has
You're
not
going against nature.
You know what has not come about though is that I don't feel like, and I'm not saying this from a feminist perspective, I'm just saying this in general. Women aren't more respected simply because men are not alphas. Do you know what I mean? It's not like we've transitioned this because if you're softer and you're not an alpha male because you're afraid of women, that's not respect. If you're afraid to go against what genetics it calls for, if you're intimidated by the idea of being what you're supposed to be nature-wise,
right?
That's not you don't respect women anymore. And I'm not saying this is a good or a bad thing. I'm just saying in general, women are not better off because we don't have alpha males. I'd argue it's worse, but I mean,
right? No, I would agree with that. I don't, and I think that there's this misconception that just because you're a dude things that somehow translates to one of those things is you disrespect women. I don't see that at all. As a guy who does a lot of dude things, that's my perspective on it.
So one other thing that's going on around Georgia that has captured national headlines is a polling place dispute in Randolph County. And basically, they've made a decision to close 7 of the 9 polling places. It couldn't happen at a worse time when we have a black woman and a white man on the ballot. The white man who's running for governor happens to be our current Secretary of State. It's causing all kinds of lawsuits. The ACLU, the Georgia Democrats, the National Democrat Party, they're all speaking out against it because the district is predominantly black, and they're saying that it's an access problem that people won't be able to get to the polls, and it's creating undue burden and all this stuff. Now, before we go any further, I do want to bring up, I live in Bullitt County, and I've worked campaigns in surrounding counties, and over the years, polling place after polling place has closed in a lot of the counties that I'm around because they don't have the staff, they don't have the funds, they don't have the resources, and the voter rolls are dropping. The number of people on the rolls are decreasing, so they're making more people vote at a central location. Not once, other than a few outraged people who are ticked they have to drive an extra 10 minutes or 15 minutes, not once have people been outraged to the point that national organizations are coming in to address it.
Right. Are they going to come in and pay for it? I don't have an issue with, the optics look bad.
Sure.
But, it's we have a right to vote in this kind of election. It doesn't say that it's got to be easy.
Right. Well, and so the Georgia Democrats sent out a press release on Thursday, on August 23rd, and it says, Brian Kemp, associate, fired after trying to suppress votes in Randolph County. Now, it's a gentleman named Mike Malone. He was fired by the county attorney in Randolph County, and my issue is, if he's the local guy in Randolph County, then he is not hired by Brian Kemp. So
right, he's not Kemp's associate.
Yeah, and he doesn't work for the Secretary of State's office. He works for the Board of Elections, or he's in some election superintendent position if he was able to be fired by the county attorney. So it's just, the headline, like I said, is Brian Kemp, associate, fired. And then the subheader is Chair Porter, which is DuBose Porter, chairman of the Georgia Democrat Party, says Kemp should resign. So they're manipulating information information, and this doesn't just go out to the press, this goes out to everybody, which is what frustrates me, because then it's just this social media frenzy of false information. I understand that this is an inconvenience. I don't have a polling place that's super close to me. It's not terribly far, but it's not like in Atlanta where I could walk to where it was, and it's a pain. But you know what? They have early voting, which I'm opposed to, but they have early voting that you can hitch a ride to 3 weeks before the election. I mean, there's so many opportunities. You can vote absentee. You can do all of these things. I don't see this as a voter suppression thing. And not to mention that Randolph County is not a very big county. It's in Georgia's 2nd congressional district, which is in southwest Georgia, and is one of the poorest congressional districts in the nation. And the population of the county is 7,700. They hit their peak in 1910. I mean, what do they expect? I bet you all their resources at the county and local levels have dwindled over the last several years.
There's 7,700 people there, and they had 9 polling locations.
Do you know that in Evans County, Georgia, they have 10,000 people and 1 voting location?
There you go. You know how many we have in Paul?
What?
12. But we have
really
150,000 people.
Right.
You know, my polling location, I just looked it up, is 3.8 miles from my house. But I could drive without, traffic. I could drive anywhere in this county. I don't know. I'm not real sympathetic to this.
Right.
Just because. I don't think that the reasoning behind it is voter suppression, which we know from earlier that I'm okay with. But I don't think they're trying to keep down the black vote or whatever. I think some bean counter somewhere looked at this and went, we should probably close these if we want to forward new elections here.
Right. And it's expensive to have elections. I mean, a municipal election can cost a couple grand, and we're talking about, yes, they get money from the state and all that fun stuff, but I mean, it costs money. You have to pay polling workers. You have to pay workers at every location. It's just,
right. I don't know. It's more ridiculousness, I guess.
It is, but I mean, we started with ridiculousness, and it seems we're going to be ending on ridiculousness, but... Right?
You ever watch that show on MTV?
No, don't have TV.
Oh, you should YouTube it sometime.
I will.
So look, I'll tell you what it is. It's this dude. I don't even remember who it is. He's somebody that I don't know. Probably my kids would know. Rides BMX bikes or something. I don't know. Anyway, they scour the internet looking for videos of people doing stupid things, and then they highlight it on a 30-minute show. So it's just a 30-minute show of there's 4 of them. They make fun of the people who had the commentary on it and whatnot, but it's pretty freaking hilarious.
Only thing is, I see so much ridiculousness every day. I feel like I want to add it in the evenings, free time. It's just like the other night, I was like, I'm gonna chill. I'm gonna watch some TV and just pick a Netflix show. And this one was all about, it said all the Queen's horses. It had a farm on it. It had the word Queen. I was like, this is gonna be great. And it was about a city clerk who embezzled money. And I was like, really, God? Really? I ended up sitting in front of the TV for an hour and 7 minutes, ticked off, correlating how this one was just like all the other people that I've investigated, and it's all the same everywhere, and it totally ignited my brain with all these ideas and things I needed to look into because they're talking about the auditor and the manager, and I'm like, oh my God. So that's why I just don't even bother turning on the TV most of the time. But do you have any closing thoughts?
No, well, I don't know. I mean, it's back public land stuff.
Oh.
I had that thing with Patagonia earlier this week.
Uh-huh.
We've got an event coming up that we're doing in Buckhead at Patagonia store. So I'm kind of looking forward to that because I've kind of taken on getting that put together. Reached out to a couple, like Sam Watson, who sponsored the Georgia Stewardship Act,
right?
And then a couple of the DNR board and whatnot. Get them to come, kind of just a panel discussion on the Stewardship Act. It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah. When we get the date hammered down, I'll announce it, but it'll be in October. So.
Well, that's exciting. Let's see. What do I have to offer? No, I don't. But
nothing.
Nothing.
No thoughts.
Listen, you didn't have any last week. Oh, I did see. Here's a closing thought. I did see where a horse tried to board a plane in Austria and was denied access. Made me reminded of how
should have
relevant
flown Southwest.
Yeah, exactly. How relevant our podcast is. Had they been listeners, they would have known which airline to choose. Oh, and then I guess I should issue a correction because I shared our little audio and said about a horse, where will the horse on the plane sit, and someone let me know that horses don't sit, they stand, so problem solved. So I guess they would just stand in the aisle, but that would make beverage service very difficult.
I looked up some pictures, and they were, I swear my dogs are bigger than these horses were. And it was in a pink tutu, but they were sitting on the exit aisle, and the horse was just standing there at their feet. It's kind of funny.
All right.
Well, that's all I got.
That's all I got.
All right. Later.